Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's Mindset Monday here in Coming Back to Life. I'm your host, Beth Jones, on this wild and brilliant journey and adventure. As always, I am immensely grateful that you're joining me today, that you've chosen to spend your time connecting. And today's topic is really exciting for me. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. It's one of probably the biggest misconceptions and the things that my clients have the most difficulty understanding the roots of. And that is this concept of feeling chronically misunderstood. And before I go any further, please, I welcome you to share your notes, to share things that resonate with you in the comments below. If nothing else, say hello so I have the opportunity to connect with you after our live is complete today. And by all means, if you have questions, if there are things that catch you but you're a little bit stuck on, or you would like some additional clarity, please share those in the comments too. I'm here for you. I'm happy to help in any way I'm able. And that's why this space exists. So please feel welcome to begin to show that to the others a little bit. It only makes us all better. It makes me better. And it gives me guidance for maybe some additional topics in the future if I identify patterns and specific instances where more of you are getting a little more stuck than others. So again, use the comment, use the chat. I'm here for you. So on this topic of feeling misunderstood, it's something that I spent decades of my life in. It's something that I really struggled with. And even the concept of being misunderstood and knowing with clarity what that was really eluded me, because I spent so much time being focused on the symptoms of that misunderstanding. So you may not identify it as feeling misunderstood, but it may come out in your life as feeling like you have to constantly explain yourself, feeling like you have to develop a Loctite reason that others will get and be able to process about why you did or didn't do something, or why you made a specific decision. It may come out when you're feeling really heavy or really big emotion about a specific event, and you try to relay it to somebody that's important to you, and they don't quite get it. They don't quite connect with you. They don't quite understand why you're as upset as you are about what that particular event was. And this is where clarity is a massive game changer, right? This is where developing clarity really begins to change our lives, because sometimes we think what we're upset about is this one thing, is this event, but the roots of it are much, much deeper. It's not just this one event, it's a pattern of events. It's a cycle of events. It's this emotion that keeps welling up inside of you at maybe really inopportune times. And you may look back on the moment, this recent moment, where you're feeling really upset about something, and you may look back at it and go, oh, I overreacted. There's some self-awareness in play there, and that's a great tool to have, unless it goes too far, right? The reality is that, again, you may not have reacted to that specific moment in time or that specific event. It may be much, much deeper than that. And it often is. It's often this pattern of feeling misunderstood or unseen, right? We were talking about this cloak of invisibility that we wear, that we feel like people don't see us. And when we feel like people don't see or understand us, we don't feel valued, right? Because we feel like if this other person that we care about truly valued us, that they would put in the effort to understand and to see what we're talking about. The trap is, and the difficulty is, that we can't communicate what's going on within us with clarity until we actually have clarity. It's in that cycle, it's in that pattern that we're trying to explain why we're hurt, but the roots of this hurt are so deep that we can't really relay what the problem is, right? And because none of us are mind readers, including me, including you, including your partner, including your parents, including your children, right? Including your coworkers. Nobody can really understand what you mean or what you're feeling because you don't really understand with ultimate clarity what you mean or what you're feeling or where it even came from, really, at its root, right? And if you've been around here for a minute, if you haven't, I would highly recommend finding the videos and catching a couple others. If you've been around for a minute, you've heard me say, let's solve for the actual problem, right? So we talk about all of these surface level symptoms. We talk about stress weight. We talk about issues in our relationships. We talk about issues with our careers. And we think that that's the problem. But the problem's actually deeper than that. It's what's causing the disconnect. It's what's underneath that argument, right? And often, especially if you are an incredibly empathic human, if you, like the majority of people in this group, we all tend to find each other, are doers and givers and wide open hearts that would give people the shirt off your back, you don't just get angry out of nowhere. You don't just get deeply upset out of nowhere. You don't have completely unmanaged emotions because if you're anything like me, you're always thinking about what's going on and you're always thinking about these things and you're thinking about the best way to react and the best way to handle it and who to talk to first and what, all of these pieces, right? And it keeps you awake at night, right? Because we're chronically overthinking. So if you've arrived at a place where your emotions are really functioning at this super high level and you explode or you collapse into tears or you just feel this like isolation and stuckness and overwhelm, it's not something that came to you overnight. It's much, much deeper than that. And it likely is something that has been on repeat cycle in the background for a long time, which you may occasionally be aware of. You may not be aware of it at all. You may not have realized it's a pattern because it comes up in these different ways from different angles. And sometimes we can't piece the whole picture together, which is part of my job and the work that I do with my clients is to identify those patterns and talk about them to figure out what brought us into that place where we're constantly repeating a cycle. Feeling misunderstood often comes from this deep need for validation. And the deep need for validation is really due to feeling undeserving as we innately are. Feeling that the truest and most authentic version of ourselves isn't worthy of the love and understanding that we crave. And because we feel like the truest version of ourselves isn't worthy of all those things we need, we start morphing just a little bit at a time. And it probably started way back in childhood for a million different reasons, right? Whether you moved a lot, whether you had a parent that was emotionally unavailable, whether you had a parent that was physically unavailable. There could be a million different reasons for this, but effectively it gets programmed in our subconscious as that we need to be something else to earn the attention and the love that we desire. And so we start tweaking little pieces of our personality, and we start telling ourselves stories that so and so will like us if we do it this way, or we'll gain more social acceptance if we dress in this way, or people will think we're successful if we drive this kind of car, right? And little by little, we get further and further away from the authentic version of ourselves, the true version of ourselves that's desperate to get out. And often we don't realize how much of that person we're hiding because we don't even realize we're hiding it. We don't realize how many layers of censorship we've piled on top of one another. How many thoughts we've disallowed ourselves from thinking. How much of our own power and permission we've given to others to dictate for us. About what we should be when we grow up. About what hobbies we should participate in. About the kind of people we should date. About the kind of car we should drive. About the way we should spend our downtime. And we may do it for the people that are closest to us at first, and then over time, as we get deeper into adulthood, all of a sudden the story changes, right? Now we want to be viewed as successful. So we start doing things that make us appear successful, right? And we get just a little step further away. And at the root of all this is that nobody will really understand you until two things happen. Until you begin to understand the truest and most authentic version of you, until you truly allow yourself to access the person that you innately are, and your incredible gifts and unique strengths and talents and love, and the gifts and the purpose that you were designed to bring to this planet. And then the second thing that has to happen is that you have to be courageous enough to let people see it. In the root of my stuckness, I had friends. I had really, really great friends. I have incredible friends that I've had for decades that have seen me through the worst parts of my life. And they exist because they too have a gift. They were able to see through all of the outward personality portrayal that I had going on into the depth of me. They knew me for who I was, for who I am. And the really interesting part is that a lot of the things that they say that I am and they celebrated in me and that they love within me are things that I actually am but didn't believe. Isn't that crazy? These are gifts and strengths that I now can see for myself, but I couldn't see them then. They could see them, and they loved them. And they're still here in my life today. They are still the people that I call when things just aren't right. And they are the people that will call me out on my shit, and they are the people that can hear the things I'm not saying, and we all deserve those people. And at least initially, I am that person for my clients. Because sometimes those people are very difficult to find, especially when we've spent a lifetime trying to hide from others and from ourselves. Often when we come to this day where we feel misunderstood by everyone around us, it's because we haven't let them in. The number of people that surround us that don't truly understand us in our depth is directly correlated with the amount of us we're willing to show them. So as you can imagine, one of the things that holds us back in that space is fear. What if I step out into this space as my authentic self and they reject me? What if I step out into the world as my most authentic self and the love that I desire isn't there? And that is why I built the container that I built. That's why my method exists. That's why it's taught in the way that it's taught. That's why we spend time together every single week connecting, because it's massively imperative to have that love and support and that nurturing understanding of someone that's done it, someone that's been there, and someone that can say, I get it, and I see it, and I love you, and it's gonna be okay. My clients have built brilliant friendships in each other because they didn't think that other people like them existed, and they did. It's like this tribe of black sheep, and it's brilliant because I spent my life as a black sheep. I spent my life feeling like misunderstood, feeling like an outlier. And so now I've built this place where we can all come to the table together and we can get the support and the understanding and the love that we need. And if that sounds like something that you need, then I would love to talk to you about it. I'll drop a link to my call schedule in the comments after this call is complete, and would love to schedule an opportunity to talk with you about what you have going on and the things that you think no one will ever understand, because I get it. So we have to remember, in order to truly be understood and to feel seen and valued and supported in the way we desperately crave to be, we have to do two things. We have to get clarity on who we actually are, who the truest and most authentic version of us actually is, so that we can dig in to the innate gifts and strengths and talents and love that we were born to share with others. That is your purpose on the planet, whatever that is. And I know you have them because everybody does. Everybody. And then the second thing we have to do after we figure out completely uncensored who we actually are is that we have to develop the courage and the confidence to show up as that person. And when I tell you that it helps immensely to have a safety net of people that love and will celebrate you in the background, it is so much easier to do that, because I did it the hard way and it kind of sucks. I'll be honest with you. I largely went it alone, and that was very difficult. So I would not recommend it. It's possible, but it's much more difficult. And if you haven't heard about it, my personal methodology is 9 weeks. There's a video from a couple weeks ago about how this is very, very different from traditional therapy, and effectively teaches the how. The reason my clients have so much success in 9 weeks that some people have been chasing for decades with other methods is that I'm teaching the how. I'm teaching them how to activate their own power and spend their overthinking minutes thinking in a productive way, in a progressive way, in a way that they can begin to truly understand themselves. And then we begin to acknowledge their story. We begin this process where they learn how to acknowledge how everything that's happened over the course of their lives has brought them here for better, for worse. It's not an exercise in placing blame. It's not an exercise in amending the past. It's not an exercise in judging our past selves that didn't have the information that we have now today. It's just about acknowledging how we got here. And when we can acknowledge it and understand it, we can acknowledge that it's shaped pieces of us that brought us right here to this moment. And then the last part of it is that we begin to achieve more by doing less, which blows everybody's mind because it sounds insane, but it's so true that when we begin to identify who we actually are and what we actually want, and no longer have to run around the universe seeking validation and gratitude and pouring into all these things that don't take us any closer to where we want to go. We're just doing them so that we earn the accolades and the attaboys and the gratitude from others, this fleeting love that happens when we do things for people, right? That they're grateful and it fills our cup for a minute until it doesn't. And then we have to go find something else to fill our cup, right? So when we're filling our cups up from the inside out, we don't have to chase those things anymore, which means we magically access more time for ourselves. And when we have clarity about what we actually want and can develop a custom action plan on how to actually get there, it's amazing what happens. Because all of a sudden, all of our resources are getting funneled into making progress towards the actual life that we want to be living. We're no longer grabbing at straws. We're no longer uncertain. We're no longer confused. We're no longer like, well, I'll try this and see if this makes me happy. Because we know who we are and we know what's going to make us happy, and then we can go do that. It's a wild journey. So again, please, if you have any questions, or if there were if there's anything in here today that specifically spoke to you, shoot me a message, drop me a comment. I would love to hear from you all about most impactful parts, and maybe the parts where I can bring a little more clarity for you and to you. This space is designed as a resource. And of course, the link to my call calendar will be in the comments below for you. It's time. It's time, my love. You don't have to keep forcing yourself through the motions of day to day, through exhaustion and overwhelm, trying like hell, fighting like hell to meet these goals. It doesn't have to be that way. You deserve better. You're worth more. I'm here for you, and I love you immensely. I'll see you next time, next Monday at 3 o'clock for Mindset Monday. See you there.